Hello. I've just thought I would come on and ask you to think about joining our webinar tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock when we look at whether Enfield should declare a climate change emergency. Now, climate change is beginning to become very, very important in the minds of everyone worldwide. A recent opinion poll showed that 70% of the people in the UK believe that we're not doing enough to tackle climate change. And that goes for us nationally and in local authorities as well. Now, many local authorities throughout the country and indeed worldwide have declared a climate change emergency. And these are local authorities of different political persuasions. Enfield hasn't done it yet. And Councillor Vicky Pite has tried on 2 occasions to get a motion before the council to declare a climate change emergency. She's failed twice, and she's now submitted a motion for discussion on July the 10th. Now, we don't know why there's been this delay. Some people think it's because of the silly politics that's going on in the Labour group, where the Labour group is divided and one side doesn't want to acknowledge what other people on the other side are doing. In other words, they're fiddling politically where Rome burns. Now, I hope that's not the case, but there is a very strong suspicion that that is happening. Now, what they have done, though, is they've now produced a report about the council's attitude towards climate change. And they've done that recently. Now, some people think that they're trying to pull the rug under debating the motion about having a climate change emergency. And if they are, that would be a very wrong thing to do, because bringing out a report now is a bit like putting the cart before the horse. What they're saying in that report is what they've been doing in terms of climate change and that they need to do more. Now, a climate change emergency is a lot more. And what needs to be done is a motion needs to be passed, and then a report needs to be produced as a result of that motion. And we need to look at how we can alleviate climate change and mitigate climate change in a number of different scenarios. What would happen if we had a 1 degree increase in temperature, 1.5 and 2 or 3% and so on? How would it affect Enfield and the people living here? And what can be done? Secondly, it needs to look at council practices and to what extent they contravene the intention to tackle climate change. And thirdly, it needs to realise that tackling climate change is a whole community endeavour. The council will have to involve civil society. It would have to find ways of doing it. Some councils are looking at citizens' assemblies, citizens' juries, other ways of involving civil society. Enfield needs to look at that. And finally, it needs to embed the climate change imperative in every department of the council. The report that they produced hasn't done that. In fact, there are footnotes at the end about how other departments will be affected by a climate change strategy, like finance, for example, but they're footnotes. They're footnotes at the end of a report. They're not embedded in the report itself. And a climate change strategy has to have climate change embedded in every action of the local authority. And that is seriously missing in the report at the moment. And I think it's seriously missing because that report was hatched together, I think, very, very quickly in response to the motion that Vicky put up, in order perhaps to avoid debating that motion. Now, I'm not sure about that, but it seems to be like that because there's no reason to produce a report before the motion is debated. So join us in the webinar where we'll be talking to 2 activists, David Flint, a green activist in the borough, Elaine Graham-Lee, who's helped to start Extinction Rebellion, and we can talk over some of these issues. And I hope you get involved because climate change is the existential threat affecting us all. It is the #1 priority above all others in the next 10 years. And we have to do our part in Enfield, not get involved in silly-billy politics, but do our part in Enfield to try and resolve a problem that will affect us, our children and our grandchildren. So I hope you'll join us then.